What's up, brother? In this video, I'm going to show you step by step exactly how I make over $30,000 every single month as a 22-year-old helping fitness coaches build their online businesses. And I want you to know that I actually achieved this at 21 years old. So if you're questioning whether, you can actually do this, I'm letting you know that I could have done this years ago if I actually had the right information to apply. This video is probably going to be boring, but if you don't have the attention span of a goldfish and can actually sit through the entire video, I'm going to give you the complete 6-step system, to make your first $1,000 with online fitness coaching. And I'm going to show you exactly what I would do if I wanted to start from scratch today, whether you're broke, delivering pizza like I was, or you've built just a really impressive physique and you're looking to turn that into an actual business. This is the exact blueprint that I would use. So let's get into it. Now, before I break down the entire system that I use, I want to show you proof that I actually do this and that I know what I'm talking about. So this is one of my students, Denzel. He first hit me up back in June. Literally, so lost, was very unclear with his offer, the direction of his content, with building his personal brand. He was super stressed, had so much anxiety, and he had even mentioned that he wanted to quit coaching, right? He was literally about to give up on his dreams of online fitness coaching. He had 900 followers at the moment. And as you can see now, he first invested to me after having multiple conversations on July 5th. That was the date we officially started working. As you can see now, he went from 900 followers all the way to 14.1 thousand. Absolutely insane. He blew up his personal brand, his following, right? But that's not the only thing. Within 3 months, he had scaled his business to $5,000 a month. And, for the month of September, he actually reinvested into my elite program to scale his offer past $10,000 a month. We came up short the first month. He actually got to around $8,000, which was still absolutely insane. He's only 20 years old. But another really significant thing that happened is, as you can see here, he made his first big purchase and bought a car, which was, insane, right? This actually meant so much to me because before that, he literally had to drive around, his mom or his brother's, beat up cars, right, and have to borrow it. And now he has something of his own. He made his first big purchase at 20, and it's absolutely incredible. Not to mention, this is a screenshot of one of his biggest days yet, his biggest sale, $2,000 sale. This was a $3,200 a week. Absolutely insane, man. Very ahead of it for his age. I'm very proud of the work he's put in, and just the relationship we've been able to build over this time has been so fulfilling to me. And then on my end, one of my biggest days is $6,000 day. This was a 12K week. Not bad. You love to have 5-figure weeks. My best week was actually a 20K week though, but still very good results, right? I couldn't even fathom doing this. Back when I was delivering pizza, making $6,000 would have took me more than 6 months to actually do that, right? I was making just under $1,000 a month, working 5-hour shifts. Absolutely insane to be able to do this in a day. Super, super blessed to be able to do that. And I'm showing you guys this because, the information does work, right? You can follow a system knowing that it is proven, knowing that it will actually work. Granted that you actually put the time in, you do the work, you have the consistency, you commit to the process, and you actually execute the way you are supposed to. First step is going to be defining your offer. This is literally the most important step. A lot of guys get this wrong. One of the biggest mistakes, because this is way more important than actually just picking some niche, or some business name, right? A big mistake I see a lot of coaches make, especially ones new to the space, is they make an offer like this, right? Like, I help people build muscle, just very vague, very generic, right? You don't stand out at all. You look like every other coach. That's the biggest problem, compared to I help postpartum moms turn fat into a beach body in under 6 months, right? That's very direct. That's very specific. That's a guarantee. That's something you can deliver on, right? It's so specific and you can target your content straight towards those pain points, right? Versus I help people build muscle. That's trash. Every coach can do that, right? Like, there shouldn't be a fitness coach out there who can't help someone build muscle or lose weight, right? Like, every coach can do that. You have to be direct. You have to be specific. And what a lot of coaches don't understand is the way you actually create your offer, the way you find it is it needs to be based upon the transformation that you've made within yourself, but also a mix of your unconventional method, right? Your unconventional method is basically going to be the habits and routine and the things that you do on a day-to-day basis now that kind of like, got you to the physique you have now, but also what you do to continue to build on top of that, right? And the reason you need to make your offer based upon the transformation you've made within yourself is because, listen, like, when you niche down, right? Just say you're helping people lose fat because that's your transformation. You need to target all of your content towards that, right? Because that's how you're actually going to speak directly to these people's pain points, right? These are going to be your best types of clients, right? The people who are in a position that you used to be because you understand them the best out of anyone, right? You understand them the best more than anyone can. You know exactly what they're going through. You know exactly what they need to make the changes that they want. And that's the value in it because you can speak directly to their pain points and their problems and their struggles based upon your own transformation because you were once in the same position as them. And now they can actually look to you as the solution to the problems and struggles that they're going through. So it's not to say, just because you have a weight loss transformation and like that's who you're targeting within your content, right? Those are going to be your best types of clients and those are the people you want anyway. But it's not to say that, you still don't have the knowledge to help someone build muscle. You still may get people like that, if they really do like you that much. But the thing is, like, are you going to be the most qualified to help someone build muscle, right? If you haven't necessarily done that within your own transformation. That's just what I'm trying to say. How do you actually get people results, right? You need to break it down into certain deliverables. Obviously, a custom plan is super huge. You don't want to be that coach who's just making, cookie cutter, programs, literally the exact same for every single client, right? It needs to be customized to them, to their specific body type, their specific goals, maybe their specific schedule or routine that they want to have, right? You need to be able to be custom for each and every single client because the whole point is to make something actually sustainable, right? If you give them something that they don't actually stick to and they don't do the work and it's not sustainable, how are they going to get results, right? Like that's the thing. Having something sustainable is the most important because that's how they're actually going to get results. Next, weekly one-on-one calls plus the group calls. This is very important because here's the thing, you're selling the experience with coaching, right? They need to be able to jump on these calls one-on-one with you directly, build that relationship with you, talk to you about their struggles and their problems and the issues they're facing. You help them overcome their limiting beliefs. You basically teach them where they're going wrong and things to improve on or fix. This is absolutely huge. And obviously, the better of a relationship you build with your client, the more you take care of them, the harder they're going to want to work for you, which is huge. But the group calls are actually very important as well because now, apart from your one-on-one help, you're putting them in a community around people who are in a very similar situation. And the results that those other people are getting is actually going to show them that it's possible, right? It does something to their mind because they're seeing people similar to them in the same situation, getting results around them consistently. And this is what changes their whole, mindset and their limiting beliefs, right? Because they see people, actually doing it. And now they see that it's actually possible. And then number three, a resource hub. So this is basically, Google Drive or Notion workspace where they can access, everything, onboarding materials, workout videos, nutrition guides, all of it's organized in one place. So they never have to wonder where to be getting that stuff. And then obviously progress tracking, this is where they're going to be tracking their weight, their measurements, progress pictures, maybe you're tracking, them doing sets, like having your clients send you videos of like them doing their set of an exercise that maybe they struggle with or they struggle with feeling the specific muscle, all types of things like that. Now you can actually get data back and whether to adjust certain things, whether it's, within their nutrition plan, their training, anything like that. Now you can know to make the proper adjustments to actually keep them on track and get the results that they want. And then, number five is call recording should have lifetime access. All of your calls should be recorded. Even with my clients directly, I know it's a little bit business or different with like business coaching, but even Denzel, that client I just showed you, my best client, right? Like he still re-watches calls that me and him have had all the way back from July. And that's the thing, that's super crucial that they have access to those call recordings because them being able to sit there and rehear the same information, like that's how they're actually going to be able to execute on it that much better. So, that's the offer. That's what they're paying for, and because it's so specific and so comprehensive, people actually want to buy it. But here's the question, everyone asks, how do I actually set this all up? and that's going to bring us to step 2. So keep watching. Okay, so number 2 is obviously pricing and capacity. This is very, very important. You may ask that question, how much do I even charge? This is where most coaches, screw themselves over because they have no idea what the charge, or how many clients they can actually handle. So here's the approach I use. It is a value-based approach, and it comes down to 3 questions. Question number 1, how bad do post-pregnancy moms want to transform their body? How badly do they want to get back to feeling confident again, right? Number 2, how valuable is your time and how much of that are you investing in helping people, get from their current state to their desired outcome? And then 3, how much money would someone pay if they were guaranteed a desired outcome? If you can guarantee whether it's losing 30 pounds in 3 months, maybe 50 pounds in 6 months, can you actually guarantee that? And that is how much you should charge based upon the results that you can get them, right? So typical pricing, is around $2,000 to $5,000 for a 6-month program, depending on niche and how good you actually are at what you do. I recommend a lot of you other coaches first starting out. Obviously, I didn't start this high. I started at $200 a month and $450 for 3 months because, here's the thing. You shouldn't be going to sell a certain price or a certain offer that you're not even confident yet in selling, right? It's always better to start lower and then work your way up, because what this is going to do is when you start cheaper, right, you're kind of proving your worth as a coach in the beginning, right? So you're starting less, and what you're doing is you're getting a lot of clients on board, you're getting experience with working with them. This is raising your confidence as a coach, right? And then the results you get them, that's going to raise your value as a coach. So the way other people value you with the more testimonials and results that you can show, the more worth people are actually going to see in your coaching, and they're going to see more worth in actually paying more for it, right? So this is something you definitely will be able to scale into over time. How do you actually manage all of this? So use math, right? So each client is 30 minutes a week, for a one-on-one. So if you have 10 clients, that is 5 hours a week for the one-on-one plus 1 hour for the group call. That's about 8 to 10 hours a week, right? If you have 20 clients, 10 hours a week, one-on-one calls, plus 1 to 2 hours of group calls, that's 14 to 16 hours a week. So, you need to decide your max capacity before you start selling, because the last thing you want to do is just take all these people that can actually pay, but you actually don't have the ability to handle all of them. That's when you're going to start getting clients very pissed off. They're not getting taken care of the right way. That is the issue with scaling faster than you can actually handle. That just comes down to greed with money, and that's one thing you really want to watch out for. You see it happening all over. That's when your business is actually going to start to fall apart down the road, because eventually word is going to get out that you're not getting people results, you're not taking care of them, and that's when no one is going to want to continue to work with you. So that leads me to number 3, operations. So this is all the systems you need to actually run your business professionally. And look, you don't need some fancy website or complicated funnel. You just need these 4 core systems, set up properly. First one is going to be calls. This is either going to be on a Zoom or a Google Meet. I use Google Meet, but that's completely up to you. You need to recreate, a reoccurring for your weekly group call, and make sure you enable recording so everyone has lifetime access to all the recorded calls. This is huge because your clients can go back and watch whenever, they need a reminder if they missed something, right? Second is going to be your calendar. So use Calendly or cal.com. Let your clients book their calls with you. Set up 2 event types. One is your weekly one-on-one check-in. That's 30 minutes. The other is going to be your intro or kickoff call for new clients, in week 0. That's 45 minutes. Make sure that you buffer 10 to 15 minutes between calls, and set a max per day so your calls don't overlap and you're not completely, burnt out. Like, I have the same schedule every day. This is like a 3-hour window when I know this is when I'm taking client calls. This is when I'm taking care of clients. This is when I'm on calls with them, all that type of stuff. I know exactly how to structure my day around that so that I'm showing up to all these and I'm not missing anything, right? Number 3 is going to be storage/hub. So this is where all your client information lives. You could use Google Drive or Notion, create a program hub for each client. Inside the hub, you need folders for onboarding, workouts, nutrition, call recording, and progress tracking. Everything they need is organized in one spot, so they're never confused about where to actually find something. And the last one is going to be communication. This is going to be Slack, WhatsApp, or honestly just your personal phone number. I recommend using your personal phone number because it's most direct. It builds the most amount of trust, and your clients can actually text you directly and you actually respond. That's what separates you from every other coach who hides behind automated systems. I've seen way too many guys in the space not answer their clients, not keep in touch with them. That's literally the worst thing that can possibly happen. That's where a lot of coaches go wrong, right? Because they're not taking care of their students, they're not answering them. That's when people get pissed off, and it's a whole mess, right? So that's it. 4 simple systems: calls, calendar, storage, and communication. So now that you have the systems, how do you actually get clients? That is going to be step 4. So this is going to be your marketing. This is how you're going to get clients for completely free using social media. The main strategy here is organic social media. We're not running ads or anything like that. So we're using Instagram and TikTok. That's it. You don't need a complicated funnel either. You just need to post consistently and post the right type of content. Everyone wants to take a shortcut, but I'm telling you, going from zero to your first $10,000 a month, it is very, very simple. I did it with just Instagram. I wasn't even posting on YouTube at that point. I didn't have all these crazy, systems or anything like that. I was literally just posting consistently, building my brand, building trust with people, and that's exactly how I did it. So, here's the rule. You need to post, I'd say, if you're really trying to blow up your brand, post a minimum. I have here once per day. That's when you're more established. But, if you're trying to grow your brand, minimum 3 to 5 times a day. Volume is everything, right? Because it's not only going to get you a lot better at making the content itself with the amount of reps you're doing, but also you're going to get into the algorithm a lot quicker. Alex Hormozi has that quote, you should do so much volume that it should be unreasonable not to get the results that you want. And that's how you need to look at it. Consistency is what's going to actually build trust and get you in front of new people. Now that we have that figured out, what are you actually going to be posting? The first type of content is, education content. Inform people on how to get their desired outcome, right? This can be mindset, this can be your gym routines, proper exercise form, diets, consistency. This also positions yourself as an authority with knowledge in the industry, right? And here's the thing, info is not really the problem. Like, yes, you need to show that you're qualified. You need to show that you know what you're talking about. But, that's the thing. If info was the problem, people could just go on ChatGPT and look up workout programs, info, whatever they need, and everyone would be in shape, right? It's not the issue. So that's the thing. You need to understand that, like, yes, educating people is important. It's important to show that you have knowledge and you know what you're talking about. They're going to be able to trust you more. But again, when it comes down to people actually doing it, that's what they're going to need you for. That brings me to number 2, which is inspire them. This is going to be your personal type of content. You cannot build a strong personal brand and actually have separation without this. This is going to be the most important content you do. I think at least 60% of your content should actually be to inspire people. This is obviously going to be a lot of just like, it's you diving into your story, your problems and struggles, things you went through in the past, lessons you learned. It's going to be a mix of like the way that you think, how you operate, kind of the aftermath of like how much fitness changed your life and how different you are as a man now, right? So it's going to be a lot of that. Also just personal transformation edits, motivational talks, all that stuff. This is going to build massive amount of trust, with your potential client and inspire them to take action, because people need 3 things on your page, right? They need to be able to like you, they need to feel like they know you, and they obviously need to be able to trust you. And without this personal content, if they can't like feel like they know you through your content, if your page isn't a reflection of who you are, right? And they can't build that relationship with you, they're not going to be able to really trust you, and there's going to be nothing for them to actually want to reach out to you specifically over all the other coaches out there. And that brings me to number 3, results. This is very, very important. Obviously, you need testimonials, showing the results that you've gotten for yourself, but also your clients, other people. That's going to increase your authority. It's going to build trust and indirectly motivates potential clients, right? Because they actually see that it's possible and they know what you're doing is actually working. So that's the most important thing. Now here's the key. You need to train your personal account. What I mean by that is you need to flood, your feed with creators who are already doing these 3 types of contents well, right? I'm not saying to copy them, but you do need to give yourself examples of, what to actually, kind of look for. Take inspiration, right? So their formats, right? As far as their hook, body, call to action, Then you go and insert your knowledge, personality, and story, right? I'm not saying to copy them directly word for word. That's just terrible. You need to take what's already working and get an example and then kind of go and make it in your own way. So, if you want examples of that, just go ahead and binge my content, at Jake Seals. Watch how I structure my videos, how I tell my stories, how I mix in education with inspiration. You could model, exactly that. So the content is how you attract people, but once they're attracted, how do you actually turn them into paying clients? That is step 5. So liquidation and sales. Liquidation is the process of turning a potential client into a paying customer. So this is where you actually make money. So here's the proven strategy that works every single time when done the right way. Step 1, you funnel people to your DMs from your bio. Example, that's going to be your CTA, DM me info for one-on-one coaching. Once you actually build trust with your audience, people will start to DM you. This is just an example, but you need to get people into your DMs, starting conversations, building trust, building connection, providing value, all that good stuff. So they're either going to ask about coaching, if they're genuinely interested or in what you do. This is kind of where the process actually starts, right? So once they DM you, obviously get to know them, their goals, and their level of commitment, right? Mix in voice messages for longer explanations so they know you're actually a person, right? You're actually the person they're talking to. That's a big thing I do. Voice memos are huge because it shows people they're speaking with me directly. And when you take the time to write a 2-3 minute voice memo, it actually shows that you care, and they're going to trust you a lot more. So if they're qualified, ask them for their best email and then go ahead and schedule a call with them. I normally go about it as after having a really good conversation and I know they're qualified, I may say something like, what's your soonest availability to jump on a call? Just want to get a better understanding of your situation and where you're currently at and see if there's any way I can help you, right? Very simple. On the call, you kind of just use the information that they gave you to sell their pain points, right? Really dig into that. You need to kind of just escort them to the truth, right? You're not sitting there arguing with them. You should never sit there and have to like beg someone to do your coaching, right? You're just taking their pain points, taking what they're struggling with most, and you're pointing them to the truth, even if it has to hurt their feelings, right? Because you're overcoming their limiting beliefs. If they already knew they wanted to do your coaching, they would have already bought it. But obviously, they need your help to get them to that solution. You need to be able to show them that you have the solution to exactly what they're struggling with. And then after that, you're going to send them the contract and payment on the call to actually ensure commitment, right? Don't jump off a call without covering all of that. It takes like 3 minutes. Chances are if you do jump off the call without ensuring the payment and all that stuff, they're just never going to get back to you. So now you've got clients paying you. But how do you actually deliver results and make sure they don't ask for refunds? That is going to be step 6, which is going to be fulfillment, right? This is where you use your expertise to tailor a plan for your clients to actually be able to get them real results. So here's the thing, when you're first starting out, you might be thinking, I don't know what the perfect program is, or what if I mess up? And the answer is simple. You start using your story and the methods that actually transformed you. Whatever got you results, whatever helped you build your physique, whatever mindset shifts or you had to make, that's where you start. So you take what worked for you and you apply it to your clients directly, right? So then as you work with more people, you adjust based on what works best for each individual client. Because here's the reality. Not everyone responds the same way. Some people do better with higher carbs. Some people need more accountability. Some people need mindset work more than they need training advice. So your job is to figure out what each person needs and customize the approach. What does this actually look like? A tailored meal plan, tailored training plan, mindset coaching, remove negative habits, and creating positive habits, being an accountability partner, etc. This is going to ensure that they can actually stay consistent, instead of just quitting after 2 weeks. So the key here is that everything is customized, personalized for their specific situation. You're not just giving them some cookie cutter program you found online, you're actually coaching these people. And here's where it all comes together. When you start getting results for people, you use their testimonials as leverage and you showcase them in your content, post their transformations on Instagram and TikTok, share their wins, in your stories, make case studies, show exactly how you help them, right? That's one of the most important things when you post a client testimonial, talk about that client. Talk about where they were before they came to you. What exactly did you implement to actually get them these results? And why are they doing so well, right? Show other people the whole process. Don't hide it. Every client success story you share attracts more people who want the same results. Your results become your marketing. And the better results you get for your clients, the easier it becomes to sell because people can actually see proof that your system actually works. That's fulfillment. Get people results, document those results, and use them to grow your business even more. So this is all going to be leveraged, as far as showcasing them in your content. So look, I just gave you, the entire system, 6 steps, everything you need to know to make your first $1,000 with online fitness coaching. But here's the reality. Most people are going to watch this video, think it's helpful, and then do absolutely nothing. If you actually want to take this seriously and you need help implementing this step by step, I work with coaches one-on-one to help them build this from the ground up. I've seen people get their first clients within 30 days, but realistically, most people start seeing compounding results after the 90-day mark. It depends on your commitment level and how seriously you take this, but if you're coachable and you're willing to do the work, I can help you make your first $1,000 and then scale that to 5 to 10K a month. Now, obviously, this is not a free service. You're working directly with me, so there is an investment involved. So if that's something you're interested in and you want to talk through how this applies to your specific situation, there's a link in the description to book a free strategy call with me. On that call, we'll figure out, where you're at right now, what's holding you back, and whether my mentorship program is a good fit for you or not. I only work with people who are serious, about building a real business, not people looking for some get-rich-quick scheme. So if you're ready to take action, click on the link below and let's talk. And if you got value from this video, make sure you subscribe because I drop content like this every single week on building profitable coaching businesses and exactly how I was able to do it. So that's it. I'll see y'all in the next one.